Welcome to Treasures of Mount Shasta. I'm your host, Michaela Cordeo. And today we have a special treat. My very special friend, Julianne Everett, Kamala, is here visiting from Hawaii. I first met her in Mount Shasta more than 20 years ago in one of the many groups that she has led and participated in. And you're in for a rare treat today. As you may remember, Treasures is based on the Japanese concept of identifying certain master teachers and artisans as national treasures, and that's how I feel about the people that we're interviewing here on the show. So, welcome to our show, Kamala. Kamala, tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to be a spiritual teacher.
I actually don't consider myself a teacher as much as I do a facilitator of what the masters want to bring through me. I try to stay out of the way as much as possible, but how I came into this was through a rather massive awakening in the 1960s, where I was kind of removed from the reality that I had known and taken into a reality that involved being able to see into the inner planes and to see beings who identified themselves as Yeshua or Jesus and Mother Mary at the beginning, and then other ascended masters such as El Morya and Kutumi introduced themselves as time went on. It was a very, I would almost say, a drastic awakening, because my realities were shifted so completely, and it's taken all these years to actually adjust to kind of living there and here at the same time. And now I sense that many people are living there and here at the same time.
Well, yes, and it does take some adjusting, for sure, that there and here thing. I hadn't even thought about it in those terms for a while, but yes, to get yourself fully back into your body and be here now, as Ram Dass would say, is the task. And Eckhart Tolle's been reminding us to be here now too, because in the now is when we can fully experience both those realities.
Yes. Yes, we're really moving into being omnipresent, which means we are not only just one place, we are here and we are all places at once, but it doesn't involve having to leave the true relationship to the earth or the true relationship with one another. And in the last few years, I've noticed that that's one of the challenges of light workers, as you call them, or as they're being called, and that they get into one side and then have to come back. There's always this bridging thing going on. So now is a very different opportunity for us.
You're absolutely right. I've noticed that when we do a workshop, then there's the aftermath feeling that it's separate from everyday reality. And so this is an excellent point that we're anchoring heaven on earth, and this means bringing that into our everyday activities as well as the workshops and the retreats and so on. That's an excellent point. Thank you.
The only way that that can really be done, if I can expand on that for just a moment,
Oh, absolutely.
is to be able to be so present that your field is expanded into what I see as a spherical reality. So we are truly able to coordinate this physical body within these other dimensions. And I think that's basically what you just said. But you see,
well, good.
More.
It's absolutely important to, if you see that there's a little bit more clarification that needs to be made, to say it. I do that all the time. I want to make sure that we're as clear as possible, because some of these concepts are definitely what they call esoteric, and they're certainly outside of the visible, and so we're anchoring them by talking about them and explaining them to the best that we can.
Yes.
Some of these things that people used to say were unexplainable or beyond words, we're really working at turning them into words so that they make some sense.
Yes.
Now, one of the things you've been talking about is the great shift of the ages. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that? Everybody's certainly aware now of the date 2012 and what's coming. Say what your feeling is on all of that.
My sense that 2012, to start with, is a gate, and we're already really passing through that gate. And it's particularly strong in this year of 2010. We're going over a bridge, you might say, and it's going to be longer for some and shorter for others, kind of depending on where they've come from and what they're doing. But sometimes some very young people are coming in now. called the crystal children, the indigo children, even now the diamond children, the rainbow children. And they're with us energetically in the etheric realms, and they're with us physically as well. And they are holding a space for us to be able to cross over this bridge with more ease and grace and make it more natural. I just returned from a Native American conference with many, many elders. And one of the things that was said is that the earth is actually already spinning in another direction. And it took me 2 days of meditation to reflect on what that actually means. What the elder said, a grandmother, she said it's already going now in a counterclockwise motion, and we've been in a clockwise. Well, there's been many talk in the old prophecies about shifting the way that the earth is going, and it's been very scary for some people because it sounds like we're all going to fly off the earth, never to return, except perhaps in another time in another body. So after I meditated upon it, I realized, thanks to the masters, that what that means is this is being done etherically, and we're going into this etherically as well. So we're crossing this bridge, and we're going through it in our bodies, but not our physical body yet, until we've prepared ourselves to actually move through this shift. So we're shifting dimensions, and we're shifting, if you look at it as a figure
that's
eight.
A fabulous explanation of it. It helps me to understand a little bit too. I know people were estimating the 200-mile-an-hour whirlwinds when the world turned on its axis and shifted and stuff, which wouldn't leave much left on the planet.
Exactly.
So there are, among people who do any research, it's gotten kind of frightening. So to describe it as preparing ourselves interdimensionally in the next dimensions up, we're preparing, and then the whole world is shifting into that dimension, so we will step into it more effortlessly when the dimensions blend.
We're stepping into it now, really.
Exactly.
We're on that bridge down. If you look at it as a figure eight, you'll see that, like, this is the earth that's been shifting, or turning clockwise. We go over that 8. Now you look, and we're going counterclockwise.
Oh, fabulous.
We're on that cross. We're on that bridge,
So
crossing between worlds.
that's a beautiful way to describe it, to go from one side of the figure 8 to the next.
From
the next
clockwise
to
to counterclockwise.
counterclockwise.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
fabulous.
It gives us a vision, and it also gives you a point of reference for crossing that bridge. We're in that cross.
We're in that cross.
And that will continue, actually, after 2012, but it's going to expand and accelerate now. So it's a very exciting, but also very difficult time. The reason it's difficult is the memories that are held in the subconscious, which is the greatest part of our consciousness. 80 to 90% of us is unconscious. So as we pass over that bridge, the unconscious is having to stay behind in the old world. The unconscious that's held the memories and the beliefs in separation and fear. So this crossover is kind of like cleansing the field. This is the time of the great purification, and we're in that. So this is cleansing the field, so we walk over that with more grace. And a big part of that is the heart that we're going to speak about, the alchemical energies.
Did you want to talk about the heart work that you've been up to? Because I know that you talked that your current work is involved with the focus on the heart. So tell us more about that.
The heart's the key to walking over this bridge, really, with more ease. Everyone's eventually going to walk over it. Some of them will make the decision not to walk over it. They will actually want to stay in a third dimensional world, and they will. I'm not going to go into that because this show is too short, but let's just say that you make the choice to go into the fifth dimensional world. The cross is also involved in going through the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension holds much of the information of the ancestors, and it holds much of the information that has been within the dual worlds. So the grace of these times, because of the masters and the Elohim and the archangels and the angelic hosts that work with the archangels, we're being given all the tools and the energies and the geometries to walk over that bridge using alchemical frequencies which are actually within the heart. And the heart is now exuding first at its base the violet flame, which is the great transmuting energy which takes off much of this old information that you don't even have to search for it. It'll show up in your everyday life. Whenever you're resisting something, whenever you're feeling like you need to hold a position, that's a key and a clue that that particular area is being held in a contraction within within the body. It's being held into a belief system. It's a really good time, in a sense, not to have any rigidity in the belief systems, because it's much easier to walk through this. The next level of the heart, or the heart flame, is gold, which is holding the wisdom of your own Christ essence, or your own master self. As that energy from the transmuted energy goes into the gold flame, it literally expands that flame, and then it moves into another level, which is the opalescent light of divine grace. And the divine grace that's being emitted to us at this time is probably the gift of the ages. For what we're doing now, we have never done from this density. So the opalescent ray, which is the next ray of transformation, is taking all that's been transmuted by the violet flame, all that's gone into the gold flame of the wisdom of the Christ itself, and it's taking those last remnants. And many people are there now, which means it's going into regions of the self that have not been looked at or have been forgotten over time. And this means actually levels of pain, abandonment, fear, all of those things which we associate with pain, and that pain is being transformed out of the body through divine grace and through the opalescent light. And then it's lifted into the diamond light. The opalescent and the diamond work together. At that point, the diamond light is taking everything back into that first original energy of consciousness from source. So the heart's alchemical chamber, and this is its most amazing function for us right now. The opalescent and diamond have been in a sphere around the body. They have not been in the heart since the last golden age, and even then they were never fully incorporated.
Wow, now that's beautiful. It also brings to mind that as we make this transition from the third to the fifth, we're going, as you talked about going through that cross, it reminds me, I've been writing about crossing the abyss, which is surviving with no visible means of support, which many people are experiencing right now.
On every level.
On every level, many people have lost their homes or their jobs or whatever. And it's finding that place of trust and knowing within yourself that everything works for good when you're following what is right. And that we can't take into the fifth dimension that which doesn't resonate at that level. So to focus on that which we love and bring that with us into the fifth, and to leave everything that it no longer serves us behind.
It is really an initiation of faith right now, or trust. That's one of the reasons that Master El Morya is so with us now, because he represents that ray of faith and true authentic power. Most of humanity's power has been based on ego information and on false premises. So it's like now that's just simply not going to be the foundation of the new time. So as we walk over this bridge, you will be tested not by an outside force, but by your own capacity to look at what you've created and look at what you want to create so that you can recreate. In the old understanding of Om in the Indian tradition, AUM, it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, which means create, preserve, and destroy. In this cycle, we're really working with the divine feminine through an energy being called Uma, who was the mother goddess of Lemuria. She takes those same letters, only it's U-M-A. Let's preserve what's worth preserving. Let's release what isn't worth preserving, and let's recreate. So it's
fabulous, fabulous, a new pattern to make this time of transition.
And this is the time of the divine feminine. It's not related to gender, it's related to the capacity of the human being to love in a way that none of us have really loved yet.
Right.
It's a way of truly moving into the higher feeling capacity in the body. We've felt an emotional response to conditions and to other people, but we haven't come from a place of power that allows the emotional field to just be a field of feeling unity consciousness. It's a big step for humanity.
Right, working into the unified field. That's what I've been working with for several years now, and it's an awesome experience, but there's so much learning for us just to enter it and then to be in it and then to work from that collective consciousness. But it's where we're going. Years ago there was a book called Starseed Transmissions by, I think it was Ken Carey. It was an exquisite book, and he talked about we're moving to a place in creation we don't really know, but he talked about the earth becoming a whole being. You know, we are part of that wholeness,
Exactly.
and then we're off to explore the universe in that wholeness, which is
Part of that
an
crossing.
interesting
Yeah, yes, it is. Excuse me.
way to go. Yeah, go ahead.
As you cross over that bridge, the easiest way to cross over that is to understand that you have the capacity to go into neutrality. And by neutrality, you watch the times when you have reactions and feel like it's important to hold a position. When you move into neutrality, you move into what's being referred to now as the quantum reality, which is nonlinear, which is totally expansive, but it's not based on the old projections of
Good and
what
evil,
keeps
right and
things in the
wrong.
box. You move out of the box, you move out of everything that's based in duality or fear.
Or judgment.
Or judgment. Judgment's one of the biggest ones that humanity is needing to give up, because it's so subtle. This is good, this is not good. Well, she's important, what she's saying is great, what he's saying doesn't mean anything, you know, all of those things.
Yes,
If we look
yes.
upon it all in neutrality and just allow everything to be what it is.
Apparently
And
that's been my most recent lesson, having to work on that.
It is
Sometimes I get it better than others, but having you say it out loud I think is really important, because we can be working on these things semi-unconscious of what you just described. So say that again.
about the neutrality.
About the neutrality. That's a very important point.
If you really give yourself permission to look at yourself as though you are someone else, you're looking at the dream that you created, you're looking at a hologram actually of yourself, and that seems really cold and indifferent, but your spirit is totally alive and well and in what we call the presence of God. When you look upon your human condition as the dream that you've created because of lessons and because of past life relationships, etc., and start looking upon it as though you are the project of your presence, and your presence is always in neutrality. So if you can look upon it with those neutral eyes, then you're not attached. You're not attached to who you are, who you think you are, who you've been, or who you could be or might want to be tomorrow. And when you move into neutrality, there's great peace that comes into the belly and great peace that comes into the heart. And it's a practice. It's a daily practice. It's a moment-to-moment practice, because we are so used to in this world of holding on to our positionality because it's identified us. So in this neutrality, we get rid of the identification that the ego is holding in order to make us seem that we are real. And so it's a very big step to accept that we're the dream of our consciousness. And our consciousness is moving out of the old dream into a new dream.
Yes, and
It is
perhaps
still a dream, by the
it
way.
is a dream. Now, do you have a tool or a hint of advice for people who are watching, things that they can do to take them, to remind them to come back into their center, into that place of peace, into that place of non-judgment?
The gift of the presence, the gift of the Holy Spirit, if you will, is in every single breath. At the end of every breath, in the beginning of every breath, we actually enter into zero-point awakening or quantum reality. Every time you in-breathe, you just hold it for a second and let go of everything you think you are, and especially the edges on your body, and just expand for a moment into nothingness, into the void. And then exhale and find that same place at the end of your breath. It's there all the time. Every breath holds our relationship to this neutrality in the quantum world. So that's the easiest exercise on a show like this.
That's fabulous. It reminds me of something that I was given when I wrote my book. My inner guidance said, in between all the moments where you're placing your attention on the pain or the suffering or the anger or the frustration or the joy or whatever it is, in between all those moments is bliss. If you move your attention to the bliss, you will experience the bliss. It's always happening. It's always around you.
Exactly.
Take yourself out of these appearance experiences and feel the bliss.
Excellent.
Yeah. So.
And what you just
Same
said, a
thing.
key that you just gave, was very important. You didn't just say pain and separation, you said joy.
Yeah. Well,
The problem with joy and
it's a
all of that
judgment.
we think of as happiness is we want to hold on to it.
Yes.
And then we want to recreate it. Instead of allowing creation to create us, we want to take that control again and hold on to it. The ecstasy is just a state like peace. Real joy is always. It's different, though, than what we think of as
It
happiness.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard that come out of my mouth, and I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute.
It was
But you're right.
perfect.
It was
It was
perfect.
a very
Yes.
big key.
Yeah. We had talked a little bit before the show about the work that you had done for years on the 12 energy centers, the new energy centers of the body. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? Because I know that's a very powerful teaching, and not a lot of people are familiar with it yet.
In the old system, chakra system, which my teachers call spiritual centers, but it's really the same, basically, we were focusing, as humanity was focusing on 7 basic spiritual centers that are in the body in an ascending current from the base to the crown. Now, if you look upon these centers as spheres of information that are being held in place by levels of consciousness, that are being held in place by certain geometries and certain sacred rays or colors, you realize that in order to make a shift in a dimension, those spherical informational fields are also shifting. So they're shifting into new rays, they're holding certain geometries. And for example, just to give you in this time that we're together, some information is the base chakra, instead of being ruby or red, it's moving into a crystalline frequency. So the whole body is based not only in its crystalline nature, but in the purity of that crystalline white ray. So instead of red being at the base, the crystal energy is at the base. And the red has moved up into the solar plexus, which is a major focus for the ego and for the power which has been deemed appropriate by the ego. And it's going into that center with gold. So the solar plexus is now ruby gold. And what that means energetically is that the wisdom of the Christ itself is overseeing how power is used in the physical plane. So that's one of the major and most important shifts in the spiritual center. And all of the centers have really changed. And all that's given in the online courses in Walk the Earth as a Living Master. The 7 ascending centers have always had at least 5 centers above them, which would be, of course, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then there's a 13th one. Now the 7 or the 5 are now coming into descending currents down the front of the body, which is allowing the body to prepare for bringing into its actual substance that which is called the presence, or the presence of God, or the I Am Presence, which means the part of you that is totally uncontaminated. It exists in a realm of God consciousness at all times. So the extreme grace of these times is that these 5 descending centers, which are all feminine-based, by the way, and are all already Christ qualified, are coming in to take their place between the old centers, or the old chakras, and they're helping to spin the dross and the memory out of the old chakras.
Right.
When this is really complete, they create a spiral of energy, which could be referred to as an ascension spiral, and the centers start overlapping. In that overlap is what's called a vesica Pisces. It's 2 overlapping spheres. So the centers are coming like this because they're much closer. Their distance apart is from here to here, or here to here. That's not much.
Wow.
So as this one, as the lower one expands to meet the new one, then you create a chain that allows for the ascension spiral to go up, but also to go equally down. At that point, we move out of the microcosmic orbit into the macrocosmic orbit.
Would you say more about the microcosmic would be the human body? What would you call the macrocosmic?
The macrocosmic would be our connection into the crystalline core of the earth and our connection to source. For this system of worlds, it's the great central sun. Other people come from other great central suns, but no matter what, they still come through this great central sun system. Now, some people relate to a particular star or whatever, and that's in their trajectory. I don't think that's quite the right word, but that's in their family lineage. That's
spiritual
in their
lineage. Yeah.
spiritual lineage and in their stellar lineage. But the real home base for this planet is nonetheless the great central sun. And in that sense, we're all emissaries of that great central sun.
Right.
And of course, they go and they go.
Absolutely. Well, you alluded to your website, Walk the Earth as a Living Master. Tell us a little bit about that and exactly what you're up to these days.
Okay. That is based on unveiled mystery school teachings, which means that the masters are now bringing many things out that have been veiled in the past. And in the school, it is all online now, except the courses do take place in Maui, and there they are recorded. They're all done through transmissions, and then there are light work exercises with every class, and that class then becomes available online with the exercises. And there's also the ability to write in and ask questions and get transmissions back from the masters regarding the courses.
So what's the website?
www.walktheearthasAlivingmaster.com. It's a
Okay.
little long, but that's what they wanted to be called, and that's what it's called.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay, it is long. But we'll create a link on our website too, so people can find it more readily. I think we're coming to the close of our time here. It's been eye-opening and wonderful, and I'm sorry that we don't have longer, but I know there's other times and other places, so I want to thank everybody for joining us. Is there one last thing you'd like to say as we close?
Love yourself. Love yourself so completely that you have no doubt. When you're loving yourself, you're loving God. And how could God not but love you?
God bless you all, and thank you for joining us.